What I remember was that he appears to me straight away that he was he's a very humble person. The way he talked to people, the way he reacted to questions asked during the get-together, the way he smiled gently, and this, to me, for somebody who is, well, I would say senior, being the prelate of Opus Dei, and also because he was somebody, that has a very rich background.
He was a very calm and peaceful person.
Alvaro de Portillo was studying engineering at the University of Madrid when he met the founder of Opus Dei, Saint Josemaria Escrivá de Balaguer, in June 1935. His parents were devout Catholics, whose home laid the foundation for his human and supernatural development. From 1940 until 26 June 1975, when Saint Josemaria went to heaven, Alvaro, already a priest, would always be at his side, so that for 40 years he was the founder of Opus Dei's closest collaborator. It was therefore only natural that he would be elected to succeed him as the head of Opus Dei in September 1975. Under his leadership, Opus Dei continued its worldwide expansion, beginning in new places and expanding in those countries where it already had a presence. Opus Dei began in Nigeria in 1965 through the arrival of two people sent by Saint Josemaria Escrivá. These two, an English layman, Jeremy White, and a priest, Father Joseph Gabiola, lived at Ibadan. Some women, also sent by Saint Josemaria, would soon follow in their footsteps. The men started a university residence called Irawu at Ibadan. The women, who arrived in Lagos in 1972, would begin the Lagoon Secretarial College. And so, thanks to God's grace and the apostolic efforts of these two lay people, backed by their growing professional prestige, Opus Dei began to grow to other parts of Nigeria. The apostolic works soon began in Lagos, Enugu, Nsukka, and Benin. Saint Josemaria followed closely the development of Opus Dei in Nigeria, but was not able to personally visit the African continent before his death in 1975. It would be his first successor, Father Alvaro del Portillo, who would carry out his dream of visiting Nigeria.
Is the translation working? Very well. It is sure? Very well.
Then, my children, if the translation is working, I shall speak in Spanish. In this last get-together in Lagos, I give thanks to God for all I have lived in these 10 days in Nigeria. I have learned a great deal for my spiritual life. I have learned from you this warmth with which you receive guests. You have received me, who are nothing, with so much affection that I feel moved. And this obliges me to pray for you more.
The first visit of the head of Opus Dei, called Prelate since November 1982, was from the 9th to the 20th of November 1989. During that visit, Monsignor Alvaro del Portillo was able to meet thousands of Nigerians, some in small private gatherings, others in family-style get-togethers of hundreds at a time, large crowds that did not diminish the personal nature of the encounters. Monsignor Alvaro del Portillo, Don Alvaro as he was familiarly called, wanted to bring the message of Opus Dei to many people, particularly to meet personally with so many people who had come to know Opus Dei in Nigeria since 1965. Festus Ozie was one of Monsignor Alvaro's chaperones for the get-together at the École Le Méridien Hotel in Lagos.
I met Don Alvaro in 1989 when he came for the apostolic mission to Nigeria. And my greatest surprise is that when he came, I was telephoned by one Da Silva, these organizers in the work, who told me that I should be one of the two people who will stand by the side. But we have to hook our hands onto his arms to give you, I don't know whether we are bodyguards or whatever, but he wanted people of our age group who should be close to him.
I met Don Alvaro during his visit to Nigeria in 1989. I mean, there are so many committees set up that time, and I'm happen to be one of the committees in respect of security during the main get-together at a hotel. So we are supposed to be by him. In fact, we were supposed to be, we were like a bodyguard. Myself and Festus, we were supposed to be like the bodyguard as he's moving by his side to just bodyguard.
Ezine still recalls her first meeting with Don Alvaro and the impressions he made on her.
We had a get-together in the Josemaria Study Center, and before the get-together I was scared about how I was going to ask him my question. But when the students, medical students, brought out their medical tools to show him that they were going to have an exam the next day if he could bless it and for them to pass the exam, I mean, I found it quite impressive and got quite relaxed because it showed that they had a lot of confidence. And that also made me now get the courage to ask the question which had been bothering me about issues I had with my family. Don Alvaro looked at me and smiled, and I felt that really this is my father talking to me.
The only time I met Don Alvaro was in Enugu when he came to Nigeria in 1989. He was coming out of the oratory and I was just coming in. So I stood by. When I saw him coming, I was holding my notebook and I thought I wanted to talk to him, to tell him something. So I asked him to write something in my notebook, and he drew there a duck that was as if it was moving and the mouth was open, as if it was talking. And I took that as a symbol for me to move more, be more active and do apostorates.
His obedience to authority is first class. His closeness to our father, Saint Josemaria Escrivá, was really commendable. And even when he became the prelate of Opus Dei, one can see how close he was to John Paul II when as the Pope. So all these things shows loyalty, shows faithfulness, shows obedience to authority, and definitely we need it as Nigerians, and we need to imitate such a thing.
Whenever you speak with people who met Don Alvaro, either in person when he was alive or through his videos, they all coincide in describing him as a peaceful man who radiated serenity.
I got the opportunity to go to Rome in 1997 to go to spend some years in Villa Sacchetti. I was very happy to be able to go to the crypt where Don Alvaro is laid, to go to talk to him. And this also strengthened my love and devotion to Don Alvaro, because many times one gets quite, at least in my work, I get quite with a lot of work to do, and Don Alvaro was a person who showed peace and serenity to those around him. And even though there was a lot to be done and there was a lot of confusion, one thing that always would come to my mind is that thing that he would say, alma calma, to take the things one at a time. And that would give me the confidence and the reassurance that if I put my trust in God and learning from the example of Don Alvaro, the things would come out well. And that's actually how it has been so far.
I'm married with 9 children, My husband is Chuka Francis Abu. And we both got married incidentally in 1989. And it was that same year that Don Alvaro came to Nigeria, November of that same year. When it was time for me to ask Don Alvaro the question I had, I asked him the question about being a cooperator and how to be a good cooperator. But then he went on to say so many things. He said to me about, he talked to me about, because I was 7 months pregnant, expecting my first child, our first child. And he talked to me about the baby, and he kept referring to the baby as he. And I was like, he? Because he was an interpreter who was explaining to us. So I kept saying he, does it mean I'm going to have a boy? So, you know, he went on that we have to stop the bickering between my husband and I, because when the baby comes, you know, children usually do not like an atmosphere of, you know, quarreling, and that they're sensitive. And I said, my goodness me, how does he know? How does he know about all that, all the bickering and all the quarreling I have with my husband? And I was so impressed with that, you know, interchange I had with him.
Father, I'm very glad I have this opportunity to speak with you. Firstly, I would like to say that I met Opus Dei in 1977 when I was still a schoolgirl. Now I'm married and a cooperator. We're expecting a first child, and I would like you to bless him or her.
My daughter, I bless him with all my heart, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And when blessing the child, I have obviously blessed the mother as well. Listen, I can't separate, either in my prayer or in my affection or in my blessing, what God has also united in the Holy Sacrament of matrimony, so that when I blessed you, I blessed your husband, and I blessed the fruit of your womb, which is the fruit of both of you.
He
was a very calm and peaceful person. Just looking at his picture, the serenity of that picture of his on the prayer card was itself a prayer for me. It had a calming effect.
I mean, looking at the picture of Bishop Alvaro for me is always a source of peace and serenity. Sometimes when I'm getting worked up, either at work or in relationship with other people or in things I have to do, I just look at him and I say to myself, Loretta, be calm, be like Alvaro. And immediately there's a change in my demeanor, there's a change in my outlook to whatever problem it is.
Don Alvaro was truly a good and faithful servant who served the church in many ways. He combined well his work in the preparation and the execution of the Second Vatican Council, and that of helping St. Josemaria Escrivá in the government of Opus Dei. When Don Alvaro succeeded the founder at the head of Opus Dei in September 1975, he became a father to the other members in all respects. This paternal love would be one key thing he brought to his Nigerian children in Opus Dei, and which they remember in different ways.
I have a great devotion to him because I pray the prayer card every day. And Don Alvaro has granted many favors that I've asked him, which I'm not going to mention here. But for me, Don Alvaro is just a father. You are with him and you think you are with your father. In fact, in one of the get-together, I remember a young university student asked him a question, and Don Alvaro bent down with his age, because he was already 70-something then. He was able to bend down and listen, and everybody in that get-together were surprised to see his agility also.
I've lived with Don Alvaro very few years, okay, in a family. I had always seen him as a father. And living naturally with him, it looks like nothing strikes you, but you come to discover the great quality of the man you are living with for a very long time. But because of his naturalness, most of those qualities didn't just, you know, shout or, you know, make themselves so immediately felt. He lived naturally, he practiced those qualities, and you're so happy with him. It's afterwards when you now look at it that you see quite a lot of heroic things about him which actually attracted you and made you feel at home with him. So his naturalness was very, very, very impressive. Another thing I noticed being very close to him was his humility, in the sense that I had a bad habit of praising people in their face, you know, praising them, saying the things they have done, the way it's done, I mean, saying it naturally. But each time I told Alvaro, you know, how great his get-together was, what few things he had said that was great, he will immediately, you know, turn my attention to our Father. Start teaching me about our Father, telling me things about our Father. Other times he will draw my attention to people. He says that people are good. The thing is that people are good, you know, because they are like this. Normally people, he never referred to himself. He was always taking you and teaching you. In fact, he was so humble that a couple of times when I had to take care of a dog that he's so familiar with, he knew so much about dogs, you know, and he will come and he will ask me questions. He will be like, as if wanting to learn from him, when he knew all of it, because I did as much as say a few things, and I realized that he knew so many things. And so I think that this is naturalness, and his humility was something that I would have loved to emulate if I could. Great.
The first time I met Bishop Alvaro was in 1989 when he visited Nigeria. I was privileged to have a dinner with him, and I will never forget the impression of his fatherly figure. That made a deep impression on me, and I have not recovered from it. I would even say fatherly and motherly figure. I have my personal experience in this regard. During the said dinner, I actually had something at that point in time that was bothering me. And nobody else at the table with us noticed that I was bothered about anything. But Bishop Alvaro pointed out twice on the occasion of that dinner that there is something bothering me. And it was true. And for me, it has always been and will continue to be a lesson. One, in cheerfulness, and secondly, abandonment in God's hands. So since then, for me, Don Alvaro has always been a father and a mother and a friend. So since he died, resort to his intercession has been the most natural thing for me, and I continue to do that.
The ceremony of the beatification and canonization recalls the passage of the Gospel, where the master in the parable tells the servant who has done his duty, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." This is a good description of the life of Don Alvaro, whom Saint Josemaria always called successor, meaning bedrock. This was the faithful shoulder that Saint Josemaria needed and could rely on during the difficult foundational years of Opus Dei, when the universal call to holiness was still a novelty to many, and some considered too revolutionary. In many countries where faithful of Opus Dei live and work, some of them join with friends to set up and run educational, social and cultural projects. These initiatives, a free response of Christian men and women to the needs of their environment, provide service and formation, and they include schools, hospitals, universities, and centers of professional development. Some of these projects in Nigeria began thanks to the direct encouragement of Don Alvaro. Two of these are the Iroto Rural Development Center, Ogun State, and the Niger Foundation Hospital, Enugu. The Wavecrest Monotechnics concerned for the education of women received notable encouragement as well.
He also suggested during his visit to Nigeria, in Iroto then, that it would be good to start up a school for young girls, because there were many young girls who had opportunity, but really thinking about this economic situation of the girls, it wasn't easy for them to improve. These girls were at a disadvantage. But he realized that with what could be done from Iroto Rural Development Center, these girls could be given the opportunity to improve their education, at the same time their professional upbringing. And that was how years later, the Roto School of Hotel and Catering started, with the aim of helping young girls to acquire the formation needed to be young mothers, to be good home managers, and at the same time to earn some income for their family and to change the society where they are living.
The Abidagba Health Center is also located at Iloti village. Christine recalls how Don Alvaro pushed this forward.
When the Rural Development Center started functioning, somebody wrote to Don Alvaro stating that there were many cases of children with malnutrition and many people suffering from wounds, sometimes chronic wounds, while doing farm work. Because of the way the trees are cut down at the slant, so they remain very sharp, and the wood people when they are doing the farming. So it was through Don Alvaro's initiative that Abidagba Health Center started, and that is where I work.
Why do we do this? Because we want to breed better wives, better personalities, better citizens, better mothers for humanity. And then we look on Don Alvaro and how he served faithfully, and you want to give, you want to do all you can, even when it seemed tough, difficult, even when sometimes it's as if the people you are doing it for don't understand why you have to push them, but we do so knowing that tomorrow you would appreciate and you would accept and you would agree. So I want to say Don Alvaro is a big teacher to me. He taught me to give, and this translates to my family as well.
Round about that time, Don Alvaro visited Nigeria in 1989, and in encouraging his children, as the faithful of Opus they are called, to develop and come up with initiatives that can help with the development of leaders in the country. He alluded to institutions that had been set up in other parts of the world for the development of managers, such as the ESA Business School and similar others there, and encourage his children to think about it. Therefore, given that this encouragement, so to speak, had come just prior to the structural adjustment program that Nigeria was then going into, there was an opportunity for us to not only do what Don Alvaro had suggested, but also meet the needs of the corporate body in Nigeria at the time.
Monsignor Alvaro del Portillo's reputation for holiness began while he was still alive. It was only natural that soon after he died on 23 March 1994, many would begin to have recourse to his intercession before God. One and all were convinced that he had lived the virtues to a heroic degree and was now contemplating God face to face. The favors received are numbered in their thousands and range from material to spiritual needs.
I was not surprised after he went to heaven. It was announced that the process of his beatification was going to start, because the little I saw of him, not more than 1 hour or so when he came here, really had a very deep impression on me that he must be a holy person.
I receive favor from Don Alvaro. One of my sons is stubborn. I have been praying to the founder of Opus Day, but recently, one of my friends asked me to, why don't you pray to Don Alvaro? People receive favor from Don Alvaro. Pray to him, he will receive favor. I said, okay, let me try and pray. And I started praying the prayer card. That my son that he had been going up and down, that is stubborn, that he doesn't hear, he started coming down little by little, little by little. He started going to church because he has already left church. At times he can go maybe once in a while, or he doesn't go even on Sunday. But as I started praying, he started coming back little by little. He has come back to the church now. He even said that he's going to be a priest. And I continue praying that Don Alvaro will give him favor so that he become a priest in life.
Now for me personally, Bishop Alvaro, first of all, is a father. And when I say father, I mean a father.
You know, the kind of father that goes removing things to headstrong daughters, you know. He doesn't say, now let me teach her a lesson, no. There's so many things with hindsight I see now that he has moved out of my way without my even noticing. I have so many favors I have got from him.
I started going through his intercession, asking him for different things concerning my school, exams I have to do, projects I have to write, my friends, my family, things about money, and I've always got what I wanted. And anytime I didn't get what I asked for, I knew that the problem was me, because either I didn't ask the way I was supposed to, or I didn't need that thing. So for me, Don Alvaro was just a friend and a father.
I'm a PhD holder today, courtesy of Don Alvaro. I teach at the University of Lagos at the Faculty of Pharmacy. I applied for scholarship for PhD studies because it's very difficult to get funding for this type of studies. And I did several novenas, you know, the 9 prayer cards every day for 9 days, and then I continue again. And I was offered a fellowship for 3 years in India to study there and obtain a PhD degree.
Don Alvaro is a role model for many people who try to follow his example in their life, in their work, and in social relationships.
One thing I also noticed during our meeting with the father was the ambience, the love he showed. He showed a lot of, you could see a man that has a lot of affection for what he's doing. And he was very cheerful all through our meeting, trying to play with all the children and chatting with every member of the family. Apart from that, you could see that it looks a very holy man. The way he carried himself and the way he spoke to us, the content of our discussion showed a lot of depth and love for God, and how he tried to encourage more people to practice to be very close to God and to be friendly with their fellow men.
Despite what popular piety says, it is only the authority of the Holy Catholic Church that declares the definitive heroic status of a blessed or a saint, echoing the gospel words, Vir fidelis multum laudabitur. The faithful man shall be praised. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, recently decided to include Monsignor Alvaro de Portillo's name among the blessed in heaven, thus opening the way to public devotion to him.
I got to know of Don Alvaro, say 3 years ago now. And when I heard of the announcement from the Holy Father, he's going to be beatified soon, I felt a great joy. And I remember some of his kind of advice to us. And I took that aspiration, especially one of them, where he says, Regnare Christum Volumus. And it's a kind of a wake-up for me to some other aspirations. That when I remember when he said something, I may paraphrase now, that the true contemplatives are not those, I may not remember the full sentence, but the true contemplatives who actually do it are those who are immersed in prayer.
When I think about the person of Bishop Alvaro, I see someone who was, on the one hand, professionally ambitious and competent, and on the other hand, ready to do whatever God wanted. So in his life, I see perfect compatibility. So for me, it's a point of inspiration. I find it quite exciting to know that he had about 2 or 3 doctorate degrees. And that's due to hard work, that's due to interest. And I'm sure that he must have made effort to sanctify all that work. And also, I'm sure that he had in mind service to the others when he was doing those degrees. So for me, that will always be a point of inspiration.
And now, after having prayed for the Pope, for the civil authorities of this country, and the ecclesiastical authorities, I will give you the blessing of the Pope, and the blessing of our founder, and the blessing of this poor priest who is speaking to you. May the Lord be in your hearts, so that you love God more, and on your lips, so that you speak about God and do apostolate, and so that no defamation, no lie may ever pass your lips. And in your works, in your professional work, well done, offered to God as a most acceptable sacrifice. Professional work, well done for the love of God. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. May God bless you.